explains like, oh, that's the...
All right, what's up, Sci-Fi Express Lane? Jeff Carroll, your sci-fi creator, sci-fi writer, sci-fi producer, horror man, you name it. I'm just trying to build my identity. Anyway, where stories matter, stories is great as images. Anyway, when stories are worth 1,000 words. How about that one? Anyway, shout out to my man, CP Lacey, challenging me to think of a way to describe my company and the things that we do with a little tagline. Anyway, today's Express Lane, or what I want to express myself, I think I need to get that song, the Ice Cube song, Express Yourself, up in correctional facilities. But anyway, I'm going to express myself, right? And what I want to express myself on today is the greatest science in science fiction. What is that? And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, but I had two conversations about this this past week. One just last night, and I think one was Sunday. You know, my man Milton Davis out of Atlanta started off the conversation, and kind of what we was talking about was, you know, understanding what black sci-fi is and its identity through the creations that black sci-fi writers create, right? Or creators create. And part of it is science fiction has a definition, whether anybody picks up a pen to write or draw anything, right? Whether they're picking up to write a script or a book, a comic, or draw a character, it still is what it is. However, it took black science fiction a time to move past elements of science fiction. Like black science fiction really started as Sword and Soul, paranormal. And if you count, as you should, Samuel Delaney, a little bit of futuristic speculation. But, you know, there's other areas, like we didn't have military sci-fi, which is like Expanse. We didn't have, I guess, speculative horror, like Tales of the Crypt and Black Mirror. We didn't have disaster. We certainly didn't have our own pictorial relationship with technology in the future, in Afrofuturism and African futurism. We didn't have that. Those took us years. So when you look at Charles Saunders, he was doing Sword and Soul. You look at Samuel Delaney, he was cyberpunk. It wasn't really even cyberfunk, right? Then you had Octavia Butler. She's doing a lot of paranormal stories, and she did a little bit of everything, but it really wasn't military sci-fi. She did a few subgenres, but not all of them. You look at Stephen Barnes, Tiana Reeve, my man William Sims. You know, there's a whole bunch of people in that early period, you know, all the way up to the 2000s. Then you start getting the L.A. Banks, who's doing more paranormal and werewolves and vampires. You haven't really gotten to a space opera, right? Which is like Star Wars. You didn't get to that. And now we're getting to a lot of those things. But learning the evolution, right, of black science fiction, it became, and it's becoming more aware of itself in the sense that we have creators creating more things in more subgenres of science fiction. You know, we're dealing more with robots. We're dealing more with space travel. We're dealing more with what I like, the post-apocalypse. You know, zombies is definitely a subgenre of science fiction, and we're dealing more with that. You know, and those are things that I liked, because I liked, you know, zombie stories. I liked, you know, we're even talking about doing got to change the name of it, but we're looking at doing Black Godzilla type stories. That's amazing, you know. And some of it is on the inspiration, a black version of white stuff. But then when we reimagine it, it becomes our own, right? So take cyberpunk. Yeah, it was inspired by cyberpunk. But then as we stepped into it, we reimagined it, we recalculated. Our responses are different. So that now, I'll stop there with the description of the evolution that brings us up to where we are today, right? Cyberpunk. Science fiction is science, social science. Social science and futurism and angle speculation is all what science fiction is. From the moment Mary Shelley, right, who was one of the queen mothers of this, right? I guess before the, after the people from the Bible and the Quran and Aesop and all that. We don't want to just disregard them, but we're talking about in the modern era. Mary Shelley, the moment she wrote Frankenstein, it wasn't about a monster. Even Frankenstein is not the name of the monster, it's Frankenstein's monster. What is that story? That story is about a human reaction to a greater dilemma, right? Death. How to escape death. Thus, the scientist Frankenstein tries to resurrect his monster, or this person. The monster comes back and kills Frankenstein. Message sent. Stop messing around. Leave it alone. But it's a social science story because of the relationship to technology that humans have. Well, they use technology, lightning rods and stuff, and the electrons in our body to escape death. One of the biggest fears that the Western world has. You know what? I'm also going to probably do a comparison between Mary Shelley and H.P. Lovecraft, because Frankenstein also is a zombie, right? Now, he's not started by magic, or he's not killed and reanimated because of some type of virus like Dawn of the Dead or the Crazies, but he's regenerated through lightning. So technically, I don't know if he could be considered a zombie, but he does come close to it, because the only thing he don't really have is his bite and his hunger for flesh, and he's not contagious. But anyway, we'll get into that later. So anyway, like social science. We'll stick on zombies. We'll use that as the flip, right? So another way to look at social science. A lot of people like me loved and enjoyed the beginnings of The Walking Dead. I got tired of it because I wanted a zombie story. I wanted them running from zombies. Even if the zombies mutated, I wanted that. I also wanted to see how long a story could be about zombies with the same people running and escaping. And eventually, they're going to get good at killing zombies and they're going to be scared of zombies. Possibly. I don't know. I don't know how long I can live around the boogeyman and not be scared of the boogeyman. But learning to deal with your dilemma is a social, psychological issue. So that's a social science. So it's saying, if zombies are around for 10, 20 years and people live around them, did they ever get used to them? That's a social science question. Walking Dead answers that. But Walking Dead also was about humans in the post-apocalypse. And to me, I didn't sign up for that interpretation of how humans would behave in the post-apocalypse. I stopped watching Walking Dead after they didn't kill Negan, who shot a kid's father in front of the kid and in front of everybody, right? I'm not telling you characters, but that's essentially what happened. Negan survived that. All right, but they became cool with him. Seasons later, now he's a survivor. So now the story is dang on morphed around this guy who was a terrorist, right? And what the story has now said and insinuated is that terrorists, or the mentality it takes to be a terrorist, is greater than the mentality that it takes to be a good person, to be moral, that the apocalypse would break a moral person. Only the people that are willing to do immoral things will survive the post-apocalypse. If you're biblical, right, or if you're one of the Abrahamic religions, you remember what they said, the meek shall inherit the earth. Negan ain't meek. So this is a different interpretation of a post-apocalypse. And for me, I don't like what the social science says. Not to mention, did Negan live? Every encounter that these people in The Walking Dead go through, they encounter more dastardly, evil, bad, negative humans. Good God, is that what the order in society is keeping us from? Are we that evil of human beings that the moment the police, the government, and the societal structures are ripped apart and disappeared, dismantled, we will revert to being oppressed by our most savage and barbaric side? Heck no. One of the primary stories that answer this social science question is Lord of the Flies. And I remember when I watched it, it had an enormous impact on me, but it was propaganda. When I say propaganda, it promoted a image that was never real as a potential image for how we would actually behave in a post-disaster event. And how we would behave in a post-disaster event, like an airplane crash and the kids survive, and none of the adults eventually are wounded and disabled, and now the kids are in charge. That scenario was actually played out. It was played out in the South Pacific. Kids I forgot what island they made it back to, but their plane crashed. It wasn't about 20 kids. It may have been about 12. I'm not sure. I am sure that the kids did not revert to some savagery and start killing each other and bullying and torturing each other. They became more humane, and they worked together to help themselves get off the island, which they eventually did. Somebody on a fishing boat found them. So anyway, when you hear these things or you see these things that promote a certain image of human behavior, and it's wrong, to me it's propaganda, right? And sure, you can do it as a movie, a horror movie, right? But horror movies are set against a different type of norm. Like, what makes Amityville Horror scary, or Poltergeist scary, or The Exorcist scary, is that every house ain't like Amityville Horror's house. Every house in Poltergeist isn't even buried on top of a grave site. Every little girl isn't possessed by demons. So that's what makes those stories great. But when you start to put out a story where all of the strong people, all of the people who run in things are savage, or have had to become savage, or embrace savage behavior to be able to survive, it's crazy. It's crazy. You understand? In post-apocalyptic events in real life, it brings out humanity. I live in South Florida, and most of the people here are from the Caribbean. And after they experience damn near post-apocalyptic events every other year, if we're talking about hurricanes, earthquakes, and even volcanoes, right? But yet those survivors will tell you that in those experiences, it brings out the most humanity they've ever seen before. People sharing things, they're letting people live in their houses, their borders are evaporated, and they work together. That's not what you see in things like The Walking Dead. So excuse me, Hollywood, I got a problem with that, right? And it may not be Hollywood. It may be just the comic book world, because Walking Dead started by a comic book. But anyway, I just wanted to, use the Walking Dead and some of these other stories as examples as to what science fiction really is. Science fiction's greatest science is social science. It's how human will respond in different scenarios, whether it's space, confronted by a vampire werewolf, whether it's confronted by a demon, whether it's technology and its robots, or a disaster, natural disaster, biological, chemical, whatever. That's what science fiction is. And that's how we read. That's what we read it for. We want to see how humans are going to behave in this environment and these circumstances. Anyway, Jeff Carroll out. Thank you for checking me out. Sci-Fi Express Lane. I've expressed myself. Like, share, and make some comments. All right, and follow. Shoot, don't just like the video. Follow along. I think I've got like 300. I need more. Peace.